He should have run. He could not. The entity chose him, and the darkness is rising. Something ancient has been waiting, and it has chosen its bearer. What Seal uncovered in the shadows will change everything you thought you knew. Are you ready to discover the truth? Title: Conspiracy Theories. The Barry Seal cover. Up. The night air was heavy, thick, like a blanket pressing down on the Louisiana airfield. A lone hangar light flickered, its buzz echoed across the tarmac, mixing with the smell of fuel and damp earth. Barry Seal stood by his plane. A cargo plane that looked ordinary from a distance. But up close, the scratches on its fuselage told a story of long, hidden journeys. He felt the weight of eyes on him, invisible, watching. Every sound seemed louder. The creak of metal, the crunch of gravel beneath his boots, the slow hiss of air leaving the hydraulic systems. He opened the cargo bay, rows of crates, unmarked. The wood smelled of saltwater and mould as if they had travelled across oceans. Schill ran his hand across one. His fingers caught on a splinter. When he pulled back, a thin line of blood glistened in the hangar light. He heard footsteps, not near, but close enough to feel his chest tighten. His breath grew shallow. He looked into the shadows. Darkness seemed alive. It moved with him. Suddenly, a metallic clink echoed across the floor. A shell casing dropped. Deliberately, Seal froze. His heartbeat pounded in his ears. The light flickered again. For a split second, he saw something. A silhouette, tall, still, watching. The crates behind him seemed to hum, almost as if the silence itself had grown too loud. He whispered to himself, "This is not supposed to happen here." The footsteps grew closer, slow, measured, not rushed, not afraid. A hand brushed against the hangar door. The metal groaned. The sound tore through the night. Seal knew then, this was no routine delivery. This was no ordinary night. The cover-up was already in motion, and he was standing in the center of it. A plane ready to leave, cargo ready to vanish, and secrets that would never see daylight. His throat felt dry, his palms slick with sweat. The smell of gun oil carried faintly through the air, and then a single red dot appeared on his chest. It held there, unmoving, silent. Seal's body tensed, his mind screamed. But the night swallowed his voice. The red dot did not move. It pulsed faintly with his heartbeat. Every second stretched into an eternity. Seal's throat tightened. His eyes darted toward the crates, then back to the shadows. But there was nothing, only the shape of someone waiting. The silence pressed against his ears. He could hear the faint hum of insects outside, the drip of condensation from the hangar roof, the faint, acrid smell of burnt wiring mixed with fuel. Then the dot vanished. Seal gasped, but no sound escaped. He staggered back, his boots scraping against the concrete. The echo was too loud, too sharp. A whisper followed. Low, male, carried by the stale air. "You should not have come back." Seal's stomach dropped. His hands trembled. The words clung to the hangar walls, as if the building itself had spoken. The shadows shifted. Something metallic caught the light. A barrel, cold, unmistakable. Seal's pulse raced. He thought of the flight plan tucked in his jacket. The numbers, the names, evidence that should never exist. The figure stepped forward, boots hitting the ground in slow rhythm. Each step closer, each step heavier. The cargo behind him seemed to press in, crowding him. The smell of salt and oil filled his lungs. The air was suffocating. Seal tried to speak, but only a hoarse whisper came out. "What do you want?" The figure stopped, close enough that Seal could see the faint reflection of his own face in the gummetal. A pause, a silence that burned. Then the man leaned closer, and in a voice colder than the night itself, he said, "It is not about what I want. It is about what you know." Seal's chest tightened. The air felt heavier with every second. His palms burned with sweat as he gripped the edge of a crate. The man's words echoed. "It is about what you know." A statement, a warning, a death sentence. Seal's mind raced. He thought of the documents hidden in the cockpit, names that could ruin men in power, routes that exposed secrets meant to stay buried forever. The barrel shifted upward, close enough that he could smell the sharp tang of oil on the steel. The light above them flickered again, buzzing. Fighting to stay alive, Seal glanced at the hangar door. A few feet, open space beyond, darkness that promised escape or a trap. The man tilted his head, almost studying him. "You have already gone too far." Seal's heartbeat thundered. He wanted to run, but his legs refused. The silence thickened, pressing on him like a physical weight. And then a noise broke it, not inside the hangar. Outside engines? Low, rumbling. Approaching. The man stepped back into the shadows, vanishing as if he had never been there. The red dot disappeared completely. Seal turned toward the sound. Headlights cut through the night, spilling across the tarmac. Two black cars. Unmarked, windows dark as stone, they rolled to a stop, engines still running, doors clicking open in perfect unison. Men stepped out. Suits. Ties. No words spoken. The smell of exhaust filled the hangar. Seal's mouth went dry. He understood then. This was not a warning. It was a collection. Seal did not move. His body felt locked in place. The sound of footsteps spread across the tarmac, steady and deliberate. The men in suits walked in formation. Their polished shoes clicked against the concrete, each step sharp like breaking glass. Their faces were hidden in shadow. Their silence spoke louder than words. Seal's breath grew shallow. The air smelled of gasoline and damp earth, but beneath it was something else. A faint trace of cigar smoke drifting from the cars. Expensive, powerful. One man stopped at the edge of the hangar. He lifted his hand. The others froze instantly, as if controlled by a single thought. Seal's throat tightened. The leader stepped forward. His tie fluttered slightly in the night breeze. A glint of metal showed at his wrist, a government insignia on a gold watch. Seal recognized it. His stomach dropped. This was no cartel. This was higher, much higher. The man's voice was calm, measured, almost kind. "Mr. Shield, you have something that belongs to us." Seal's eyes flicked to the cockpit, to the folded map, the flight plan, the coded names. He swallowed hard. His skin prickled with cold sweat. The hangar light above him flickered again, buzzing louder, almost frantic. The men behind the leader began to move toward the plane. Their steps echoed, boots against steel. Seal could smell the faint chemical sting of disinfectant on their gloves. Sterile, precise, like surgeons. The leader leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You have flown too far into the truth, and now the truth will bury you." Sel's pulse hammered in his ears. The leader's words lingered like smoke in the air. "The truth will bury you." His eyes darted to the cockpit. It was only a few steps away, but every step felt impossible. The men in suits stood between him and freedom. Their movements were methodical, hands gloved, eyes hidden behind dark lenses that reflected the hangar's flickering light. Seal could not see their faces, only his own fear mirrored back at him. The smell of fuel thickened. The engine of the plane clicked softly as it cooled. Every sound felt amplified. His breath, the scrape of leather shoes, the faint ticking of the gold watch on the leader's wrist. Seal forced himself to speak. His voice cracked. "What happens if I refuse?" The leader's expression did not change. He simply tilted his head as if studying a specimen in a jar. Then he smiled. A slow, deliberate smile that made Seal's skin crawl. "You already know the answer." Seal felt the ground tilt beneath him. His legs threatened to buckle. The silence around them thickened until it was unbearable. And then, a sound cut through the night. A distant whistle. Sharp, piercing, growing closer. The men froze, their formation shifted ever so slightly, breaking their perfect stillness. Even the leader's smile faded. Seal's heart skipped. He knew that sound. A train. But there were no tracks near this airfield. The whistle screamed again, closer this time, vibrating through the hangar walls. The crates behind him rattled. Nails screeched against wood. The men in suits exchanged quick, uneasy glances. For the first time, Seal saw something in their eyes. Not control, not confidence, but fear. The leader turned sharply toward the darkness outside. His jaw clenched, his voice low and urgent broke the silence. This was not supposed to happen tonight. The whistle tore through the night again. Closer, louder. A metallic scream that made the hangar walls tremble. Seal's skin prickled. His teeth rattled from the vibration. The air itself seemed to shiver. The leader's comm mask began to crack. He turned to his men, voice sharp, urgent. "Secure the cargo. Now." The suits moved quickly, breaking their stillness. Gloved hands seized the crates, dragging them toward the cars. The sound of wood grinding against concrete echoed like thunder. Seal stumbled back, his eyes locked on the open hangar door. Darkness stretched beyond the tarmac, but deep in that black void something glimmered. A faint, unnatural light. It pulsed. Once, twice, in rhythm with the shrieking whistle. Seal's breath caught in his throat. The smell of ozone filled the air, sharp and electric. It burned his nostrils, stung his eyes. One of the men froze mid-step. He dropped a crate. The wood splintered open, spilling contents onto the floor, bundles, tightly wrapped. Pale powder dusted the ground like ash. No one moved to clean it. All eyes were fixed on the horizon. The whistle became a roar. Metal grinding against metal, a sound that did not belong here. Seal pressed his hands over his ears, but it was useless. The vibration rattled through his bones. Through the plane. Through the crates. The leader whispered under his breath, words meant for no one. They said the bindings would hold. Seal's heart lurched. Bindings? What bindings? The pulsing light grew brighter. It washed over the tarmac, swallowing shadows. Long, twisting shapes flickered across the ground. Moving, shifting, crawling like living things. Seal's chest tightened. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his legs would not obey. The light swelled until it drowned the hangar. Harsh, blinding. It carved every shadow into sharp relief, every crack in the concrete floor into deep black scars. Seal shielded his eyes, but the glow burned through his hands. It was not normal light, it had weight. It pressed against his skin like heat, but colder than ice. The men incisions faltered. Their precision shattered. One stumbled backward, his polished shoe scraping the floor. Another dropped his briefcase, papers scattering like pale wings across the tarmac. The leader did not move. But Seal saw his jaw tighten, saw his knuckles whiten around the gold watch. He knew. He had expected this, and still he was afraid. The whistle became a low moan, metal on metal. Steel dragged across steel, but with a voice buried inside, a voice that was not human. Seal's breath quickened. The air stank of ozone and sulfur now, thick and choking. Each inhale burned his throat. The pulsing light shifted, swirling like a storm contained in a single point. And then it cracked open. Shapes stepped through. Not men, not machines. Something in between. Seal's vision blurred, but he saw their movements. Too smooth. Too deliberate. Their bodies shimmered as though they were wrapped in liquid glass. The suits stepped back in unison, fear breaking their silence at last. One whispered, barely audible, his voice trembling. "They are not supposed to be here." Sile's heart pounded. He stumbled against a crate, the splintered wood biting into his hand. His blood smeared across the rough surface, dark against the pale dust. The leader turned sharply, his voice a growl now. "Seal, do not move." But Seal could not stop shaking. His instincts screamed louder than the man's command. The glow wrapped around him, pulling at his skin, pulling at his mind. And for the first time that night, he realized this was not just a cover-up. This was a summoning. The storm of light twisted tighter, folding in on itself. Seal's eyes watered. Every nerve in his body screamed to look away, but he could not. The shape stepped closer, tall, elongated. Their outlines flickered, bending reality around them. The air grew heavy, thick with the smell of burning copper. Every breath stung his lungs. The sound was worse. A chorus of metal grinding, layered with whispers that clawed into his skull. Seal pressed his palms to his ears, but the voices did not stop. They were inside him, repeating words he did not understand. Or perhaps words he was never meant to. The men in suits backed away, their calm precision shattered. One clutched his chest as though the sound itself was tearing him apart. Another dropped to his knees, vomiting onto the tarmac. Still, the leader stood firm, though his eyes betrayed him wide. Gleaming with a fear he could no longer disguise, Seal's gaze darted to the broken crate beside him. The pale dust glowed faintly in the unnatural light. It pulsed, in rhythm with the creatures, as if the cargo was part of them, or fuel for them. The realization struck like ice. The plane was never meant to transport drugs. It was something else. Something older, something bound. The whispers grew louder. They merged into a single voice that rattled the hangar walls. "You brought us here." Seal's stomach churned. He stumbled backward, the blood on his hands smearing deeper into the glowing dust. The ground beneath him trembled. The leader snapped his head toward the suits, barking orders now. "Contain it! Contain it before it breaks through!" But it was too late. The air split open with a sound like tearing metal. A shadow rose from the light, vast, wreathing, endless. Seal's scream caught in his throat. The truth was no longer hidden. It towered over him. And it was free. The shadow surged upward. Its form bent the hangar roof, stretching metal until it groaned like a dying beast. Bolts rattled loose, sparks raining down. Seal stumbled back, his breath ragged. The thing was not flesh, not smoke, it was both, shifting endlessly as though reality itself could not contain it. The men in suits opened fire. Muzzles flared, shells clattered to the floor. The noise was deafening, but useless. The bullets dissolved into the creature's skin, vanishing like pebbles into water. The shadow rippled in response, and then it lashed out. One man screamed as his body lifted from the ground. His silhouette twisted, bones snapping with sharp cracks. His scream cut short as he folded inward, disappearing into the light. Another tried to run. The glow reached him first. His outline froze, shaking violently, before collapsing into ash that spread across the concrete. Seal's legs weakened. He gripped the edge of the plane for balance. The cold metal felt alive beneath his palm, humming in rhythm with the pulsing light. The leader did not fire. He only watched, jaw clenched, as if he had expected this outcome all along. When his eyes shifted to Seal, they burned with fury. "This is on you." As Seal shook his head wildly, words catching in his throat. His vision blurred. The hangar air was thick now, saturated with the stench of sulfur and iron. The creature turned. Its shifting mass loomed over Seal. Whispers poured into his skull, rattling his teeth, clawing at his thoughts. "You carried us. You freed us. You belong to us now." Seal dropped to his knees. Blood trickled from his nose. His heartbeat raced until it was no longer his own. The light swelled. The shadow descended, and the world around him dissolved into a scream. Seal's scream tore through the hangar, but no sound left his mouth. The light swallowed it, devouring every vibration before it reached the air. His vision blurred into streaks of white and black. The world tilted. The ground beneath him cracked, concrete splitting like thin ice. The whispers burrowed deeper, not just in his ears, but in his bones, his blood, his very thoughts. "We are hunger. We are memory. We are the debt you carry." Seal's hands clawed at the floor, nails snapping against the rough surface. The smell of sulfur was unbearable, coating his tongue with bitterness. He gagged, his chest heaving. The shadow bent lower. It had no face, and yet it watched him. The glow inside it pulsed in time with his heartbeat, each throb faster, harder. Seal felt his body slipping, as though something inside him was being pulled free. A tearing sensation, invisible but sharp, slicing him from within. The leader shouted over the roar. His voice cracked with desperation for the first time. "Seal! Do not let it take you!" Seal's head jerked up. His eyes locked on the gold watch glinting at the leader's wrist, a symbol of control, of power, of the system that had delivered him to this night. Something shifted inside him, a spark faint but real. He slammed his bloody palm against the glowing dust spilled from the crate. The powder flared, reacting to his touch. A violent burst of light shot upward, colliding with the shadow. The creature recoiled. The whispers fractured into shrieks. The hangar shook as if the earth itself tried to break free. Seal gasped, his lungs filling with air that finally felt his own. But the light in his hand did not fade. It burned hotter, brighter. Alive. The leader's eyes widened. He stepped back, whispering a single word that chilled Seal to his core. Chosen. The light seared across Seal's palm. It did not burn his flesh, it burned something deeper. His veins glowed faintly beneath his skin, blue fire tracing every vessel. Each pulse carried both pain and power. Every heartbeat was louder now, echoing like drums inside the hangar. The shadow shrieked. Its body rippled, folding inward, trying to shield itself from the glow. The sound was unbearable, a metallic screech that clawed at the walls. The men in suits staggered back, shielding their faces. One dropped his weapon, another fell to his knees, blood running from his ears. They were not meant to see this. Seal gasped for air, but the light forced its way deeper. His body trembled. His bones hummed, resonating with the same unnatural rhythm as the creature. The whispers returned, but different now, no longer commands. Questions. Why do you carry us? Why do you resist? Why are you chosen? Seal's vision warped, the hangar blurred. For a moment, he saw beyond it, a vast ocean of black broken by spirals of fire. Eyes, unblinking, watching. His stomach twisted. The taste of iron filled his mouth. He nearly collapsed, but the glow in his palm held him upright. The leader's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and desperate.
"You do not understand, Seal!"
That light binds you now, if you fail to control it. He stopped. His words died on his tongue. Because the shadow had begun to split. From its core, something pushed forward. Something older. Something waiting. Seal's chest tightened. The light in his hand flared brighter, answering the thing that crawled free. And in that instant, he realized the truth. The crates were not cargo. They were locks. And he had just broken them. The shadow tore apart with a sound like mountains breaking. The air convulsed, thick and hot, smelling of rust and burnt stone. Seal staggered backward, his glowing hand trembling violently. From the split, something vast began to crawl through. A shape that bent the eye, limbs too long, folding into themselves. Skin that shimmered like liquid metal. And eyes, dozens of them, blinking open in unison. Each eye fixed on Seal, cold, unblinking, hungry. The men in suits panicked. Their formations shattered completely. One ran toward the cars, stumbling, screaming into a radio that spat static. Another fired wildly, his shot sparking uselessly against the concrete. The leader did not move. His gaze locked on Seal, not the creature. As if Seal himself was now the greater danger. The whispers surged back, stronger than before. Not many voices. One, a single presence that filled the hangar, vibrating in his chest. "You freed us. You will carry us. You are ours now." Seal fell to his knees. The light in his hand flared, sending cracks of brilliance through the hangar. Metal screamed as beams bent, glass shattered, crates exploded into splinters. His mind swam with images, not memories, prophecies. Cities crumbling beneath storms of fire, oceans boiling, skies torn open, and always the same towering shadow at the center. Seal gasped, the taste of blood sharp on his tongue. The glow surged up his arm, wrapping his chest, searing into his heart. Every vein blazed like molten steel. The leader stepped forward at last, shouting above the chaos.
"You cannot fight it, Seal! The binding is chosen!"
"Either you hold it." The ground cracked, splitting wide. Flames licked up through the fissure, casting the hangar in red. The leader's words broke into a roar. "Or it will consume us all." Seal's body convulsed. The glow inside him pulsed like a second heart, each beat stronger, faster. His chest felt as if it would split open. The shadow loomed above, its many eyes burning into him. Every blink poured a wave of dread into his skull. The voices were no longer whispers, they were thunder. "Take us, find us, be the vessel." Seal's vision blurred. The hangar around him melted into streaks of light and darkness. Only the creature remained clear, its form stretching higher, bending the roof. The men scattered, their shouts drowned beneath the roaring void. The smell of smoke and ozone grew unbearable, stinging Seal's throat, coating his tongue with bitterness. He gagged but could not stop breathing it in. The leader's voice cut through, ragged but commanding.
"You have one chance, Seal!"
"If you let it break free, the world ends here. Do you understand?" Seal's hands shook violently. The light crawled up his neck, wrapping his jaw, searing into his skull. Memories flashed. faces of his family, the endless flights across the border, the secret deals made in dark rooms, and then visions not his own, cities drowned in silence, forests burning in spirals, a sky split open by an endless eye. Seal screamed, the sound tearing his throat raw. The creature's limbs reached down, curling toward him, wrapping him in shadow. Every nerve screamed to run, but his body no longer obeyed him. The glow in his chest burst outward, flooding the hangar in searing white. The suits collapsed instantly, writhing against the floor. The leader shielded his eyes, gritting his teeth. Seal rose to his feet, though he did not feel his legs. The voice inside him merged with his own, echoing through his skull. "You are not Barry Seal anymore." The shadow recoiled, but its eyes never left him. Its whispers grew frantic. "Bind us, or break the world." Seal's hands lifted, though he had not willed them to. The light surged, filling the cracks in the earth, swallowing the flames. The decision pressed against him like iron. Contain it, or unleash it. His body shook, his lips parting with words not his own.
I choose.
The word caught in his throat. It was as if invisible hands strangled the sound before it could leave. His jaw locked tight, teeth grinding under a pressure not his own. The shadow leaned closer. Its many eyes expanded, filling the hangar with a wet, shimmering glow. Each blink made the walls tremble. Each blink rattled the bones inside his body. Seal's chest burned. The light inside him wanted release. It pressed against his ribs, cracking, tearing, demanding to be let out. The leader shouted again, voice shaking.
Cell, make the binding.
"Do it now, or we are all dead." But Seal's body twisted against his will. His fingers bent backward, snapping into unnatural shapes. A cry escaped him, low and broken. The light spilled down his arms like liquid fire. The smell of scorched flesh filled the air. The suits groaned on the ground, unable to move. Only the leader staggered forward, shielding his face from the glare.
Seal, listen to me.
"If you let it control you, the bindings will fail everywhere.
The world cannot hold them back again."
Seal's eyes rolled white. His vision fractured into shards of blinding light. Cities cracked apart in his mind. Oceans boiled. The shadow's whispers grew louder, rising like a storm tide. "Do not bind us, break it all. The world deserves the silence." Seal's lips moved, though the words were no longer his. "I will not choose." The hangar floor split open. Dark air surged upward, cold and reeking of rust and decay. The roar drowned every other sound. The leader dropped to his knees, eyes wide with terror. Seal's body lifted into the air, hollowed in white flame. The shadow wrapped around him, sinking into his skin. The choice was gone. The vessel was claimed. Seal hung suspended, his body rigid. The glow pulsed with every breath, each beat louder than his own heart. The air vibrated as if alive, humming with static and dread. The shadow seeped deeper into his veins. It coiled under his skin like black fire, twisting his muscles, stretching his bones. His screams echoed, but they no longer sounded human. The leader forced himself upright. His hands trembled as he pulled a small, metallic object from his coat, a charm, etched with spirals that burned faintly blue. His voice cracked as he spoke the words he swore never to use again. "Shield, listen, you are not lost yet. This thing feeds on surrender. Fight it. Even one thought of resistance can break its grip." His Seal's head jerked violently. His eyes glowed white, then black, then white again. The voice inside him shifted, splintered, two tones fighting for dominance. "We own him. He is ours." But beneath the roar, another sound emerged, a faint, trembling breath. His own voice. "I am still here." The floor shook harder. The hangar doors rattled on their hinges. Dust poured from the ceiling in heavy clouds. The shadow screamed, a sound like tearing metal and breaking glass. Its limbs lashed out, striking the leader across the chest. He hit the wall with a sickening crack, blood spattering the concrete. Seal gasped, fighting the pull. Memories surged again. His family, his betrayals, his desperate deals for survival. The faces of those he had doomed. The faces of those who still believed in him. His body convulsed. The light burst brighter, searing, trying to force the darkness out. But the shadow wrapped tighter, feeding on his doubt, his guilt. The hangar walls began to bend inward, sucked toward the maelstrom that swirled around Seal's body. Papers ignited in midair. The smell of burning oil and copper filled every breath. And then, the leader, broken and bloodied, whispered his last strength into the charm. It flared blue, brighter than the flames, cutting through the storm. The light struck Seal's chest directly. He screamed, caught between two powers tearing at his soul. The world seemed to hold its breath. Would he be consumed? Or would he rise as something the shadow could never control? Seal's body arched backward, suspended in the storm of light and shadow. His scream tore through the hangar, rattling steel beams and shattering glass. The blue charm's glow pressed against the black fire in his veins. For a moment, the shadow recoiled, its limbs thrashing wildly, scraping the ceiling with claws that sparked against metal. Seal gasped for breath. His chest heaved, the light inside him flickering like a candle in a hurricane. The voices fought louder. "He belongs to us." "No, he is breaking away." The hangar floor buckled. Cracks spread outward like veins across the concrete. Through them seeped the stench of rust and sulphur, the air below colder than death. Seal's eyes flashed open, half white, half black. The leader saw it and whispered hoarsely, blood bubbling on his lips. "Choose, Seal, choose now, or everything collapses." Seal trembled, teeth clenched, veins bulging against his skin. He felt the weight of two worlds inside him, one of freedom, one of annihilation. The shadow shrieked, its sound a dagger of pure terror. The charm pulsed again, burning hotter in his chest, as if demanding an answer. Seal's voice cracked through the storm, raw and broken. "I will not be your vessel." The light erupted outward, flooding every corner of the hangar. The shadow wreathed, its form unravelling into threads of smoke. Its many eyes blinked furiously, then shattered like glass into the void. But even as it fell away, a final whisper sank into Seal's ear. "You cannot destroy us. You can only delay." The light faded. Seal dropped to the ground, his body smoking, trembling, alive, but barely. The leader crawled closer, dragging himself across the fractured floor. His face was pale, his breath shallow. He touched Seal's shoulder, his hand shaking. "You held it back, but the bindings, the others will feel the breach. This is not over." Seal lifted his head weakly. The hangar doors groaned. Beyond them, a low rumble spread across the night sky, deep, endless, alive. And in the silence that followed, a single thought chilled him to the bone. The world had already changed. The hangar doors shuddered. Metal groaned as if something vast pressed against them from the outside. Seal staggered to his knees, his vision swimming, ears still ringing from the blast of light. The leader clutched his side, coughing blood onto the cracked floor. His voice came low, broken, but urgent. "Sail, listen carefully. What you felt was only one breach. When the bindings weaken in one place, they weaken everywhere." Seal's stomach twisted. The air carried a new sound, deep rolling like distant thunder. But it was not thunder. It was steady, rhythmic, like the beat of a heart too large to belong to anything human. The walls trembled with each pulse. Dust sifted down in a slow, choking rain. Seal's throat burned with every breath, the acrid taste of copper thick on his tongue. He forced himself to stand. His muscles screamed, half burned, half numb from the shadow's grip. But he could not ignore what waited outside. The leader's hand tightened around Seal's wrist. His eyes, bloodshot and wild, locked onto Seal's. "You bound it for now, but something else heard. It always hears when a vessel resists. It will come." A sharp crack echoed through the hangar. One of the massive steel doors bent inward, a perfect handprint denting its surface. Seal froze, every instinct screaming to run. The sound came again, metal tearing, rivets snapping, the door peeling like paper. Cold air rushed in, carrying a smell that turned Seal's stomach. Rot, ash, and something sweet like rotting fruit left too long in the sun. The leader whispered, almost reverent, almost broken, "It is already here." The final bolt snapped. The hangar doors tore open, and in the darkness beyond, a shape waited. Huge, silent. Its outline rippled like smoke, but its eyes were clear, unblinking, waiting. The eyes hung in the dark like lanterns, steady and unblinking. Seal's chest tightened, every breath shallow, ragged. The world outside the hangar seemed to hold still, waiting. The figure stepped forward. Its body shimmered, edges dissolving into smoke, reforming with each movement. The sound of its steps was not metal on concrete, but something softer, like wet fabric dragging across stone. Seal's skin prickled. The temperature dropped with every stride, his breath curling in pale clouds before him. The leader coughed hard, clutching his wound. His eyes widened with a recognition Seal could not understand. No, not here, not now. The figure paused at the threshold. It tilted its head, slow and deliberate, as if studying them. The smell grew stronger. Rot, iron, and something floral. A perfume of death, sweet and suffocating. Seal's vision blurred at the edges. His legs trembled, not from weakness this time, but from something older, primal. The body's natural answer to a predator too vast to fight. The figure's voice slid into the room without sound. Not heard, felt. A vibration in the chest, in the teeth, in the marrow of the bones. The vessel resists. The vessel delays. But the vessel cannot hide. Seal clutched his skull, pain splitting through him. His knees hit the ground. The light within his chest flared weakly like a dying coal. The leader shouted, forcing his broken voice through blood.
"Sail!"
"Do not let it in. Whatever it does, do not answer it." The figure moved closer. Its eyes burned brighter, boring into Seal's soul. The hangar lights flickered, then died, leaving only that glow. And in the crushing dark, the voice pressed harder. "Answer me, Barry Seal. Answer, and I will show you what waits beyond the bindings." Seal's lips trembled. The words rose unbidden, clawing for escape. His throat ached as he tried to hold them back. The choice hovered, thin as a thread, silence or surrender. Seal clenched his jaw until his teeth ached. His throat burned, every muscle straining to keep the words locked inside. The silence was agony. The figure stepped closer. Its shape flickered, stretching unnaturally tall, then folding inward like smoke. The sound of its presence was a low hum, vibrating the steel beams, rattling the broken glass on the floor. Seal's chest flared with weak light. The coal inside him glowed, threatening to burn out completely. Sweat poured down his face, stinging his eyes, mixing with the taste of iron on his tongue. The voice pressed harder. It slithered into the cracks of his mind, promising, "I can end the pain. I can take the burden. One word, vessel, and you will know peace." Seal's vision doubled. The hangar spun. Shadows dripped from the ceiling, crawling toward him, reaching with clawed fingers of smoke. The leader dragged himself forward, leaving a trail of blood. His hand closed around Seal's ankle, grounding him. "Barry, listen to me. Silence is the only weapon you have now. Do not give it your voice." Seal's chest heaved, each breath sharp, jagged. The words pressed at his lips, desperate to escape. The figure's eyes pulsed, synchronizing with the beat of his failing heart. One pulse. Two. Three. The world narrowed to that rhythm. The leader's grip tightened, his own voice breaking into a whisper. "Hold on even if it tears you apart. Hold on." The figure leaned in. Its face, or what passed for one, hovered inches from Seal's. Cold seeped into his skin, filling his veins with ice. "Answer me, or I will take what you hide." Seal's mouth opened against his will. A single sound broke free, half word, half scream. "No." The light in his chest exploded, blinding white, flooding the hangar. The figure staggered back, its form shredding, its eyes dimming for the first time. The air filled with a piercing shriek, not of rage, but of recognition. It knew Seal had chosen defiance, but defiance always comes with a price. The light collapsed back into Seal's chest, leaving him gasping in the dark. His body trembled, skin slick with sweat, lungs burning as if filled with fire. The figure staggered at the threshold, its shape twisted, unraveling in strands of smoke. But its eyes never wavered. Even as the form dissolved, they lingered suspended in the air like two cruel stars. The shriek died, replaced by silence too deep, too complete. Even the night outside seemed to hold its breath. Seal's knees buckled. He fell to the cracked floor, palms scraping against broken glass. Each shard bit into his skin, warm blood dripping between his fingers. The sting grounded him, reminding him he was still alive. The leader crawled to his side, his voice rasping. "You held it back, but at a cost. Look at yourself." Seal lifted a shaking hand. His veins glowed faintly beneath his skin, white threads pulsing with light. Each pulse burned, faint but relentless, as if something inside refused to let go. The leader's face paled further. His breath rattled in his chest. "It marked you. You are not its vessel, but you are its beacon now. Wherever you go, they will find you." Seal's stomach dropped. The thought sank in heavy as lead. He had not destroyed it. He had called to it. And others. Outside, the silence broke. A low, rolling sound spread across the horizon, like countless wings unfurling at once. The ground shuddered beneath them. The air thickened, cold and wet, carrying the smell of ash and brine. The leader's hand tightened on Seal's arm. His eyes burned with grim certainty. "You resisted tonight, but the real storm is only beginning." The hangar lights flickered once, then died for good. Only the glow of Seal's cursed veins lit the darkness, and beyond the torn doors, more eyes began to open. One pair, then another, then dozens. Unblinking, hungry. Seal's breath came in shallow bursts. Every nerve in his body screamed to run, but his legs felt like stone. The leader's grip shook violently, blood dripping from his lips as he forced himself upright. The eyes outside multiplied, stretching across the night like constellations. Each one blinked in eerie rhythm, their glow painting the hangar floor in pale circles of light. The silence between each blink throbbed with pressure, as if the air itself carried weight. Seal swallowed hard. The veins in his arms pulsed brighter, as though answering the eyes beyond the door. A sick realization sank into him. He was not just marked, he was calling to them. The leader saw it too. His voice was a broken whisper, harsh with urgency. "They are not here for me. They are here for you. You must move, Seal. Now." Seal staggered forward, broken glass crunching under his boots. The sound seemed impossibly loud in the cavernous hangar. The eyes beyond the door flickered, not random, watching, tracking. One of the shapes shifted. A limb, impossibly long, unfolded from the darkness and dragged itself across the concrete. The sound was wet, grating, like flesh pulling against rusted metal. Seal's stomach twisted at the stench that followed. Rot, salt water, old, damp earth. The leader forced himself to his feet, using the wall for balance. He pressed a hand against Seal's shoulder, eyes blazing despite the pain. "Listen to me. If they breach this place, we will not fight them. We cannot. The only choice is escape." As Seal's voice cracked, raw and hoarse. Where can we go?" The leader's eyes darted to the far side of the hangar. A service tunnel half collapsed, hidden behind debris. Down, into the earth. They hate the deep places. It buys us time. Oh, another lem slammed against the hangar door. Metal bent inward, shrieking. Dust cascaded from the ceiling. Seal felt his veins burn hotter, the glow pulsing faster, answering the rhythm outside. The eyes blinked in unison. The doors began to split. And in that moment, Seal understood. The storm waiting outside was not coming. It was already here. The steel doors screamed as they tore apart. Bolts snapped like rifle shots, echoing through the cavernous hangar. Seal stumbled backward, shielding his face from a shower of sparks. Through the widening gap, shadows poured in, not walking, not crawling, flowing like smoke given weight and teeth. The eyes multiplied within the tide, thousands, hundreds, each one fixing on Seal, glowing brighter as his veins pulsed in response. His stomach turned, every blink pulled at his chest like hooks dragging him forward. The light inside him begged to answer. The leader shoved him hard toward the debris. Go. Seal staggered, boots slipping on the fractured concrete. The service tunnel yawned ahead, a jagged mouth of broken stone and rebar. The air pouring from it was damp, heavy, smelling of mildew and earth. Behind them, the first of the limbs forced its way inside. Long, jointless, wet skin glistening under the faint glow of Seal's cursed veins. It scraped against the floor, leaving trails of slime that hissed where they touched metal. Seal's chest heaved, panic tearing through him. His body wanted to freeze, to collapse under the crushing pressure of those eyes. But the leader's voice cut through the storm.
Barry, move or you give them everything?
Seal forced himself into the tunnel. The space was narrow, the ceiling low. The walls slick with dripping water. Every scrape of his boots echoed down the passage, swallowed by the dark. The leader followed, dragging one leg, leaving a smear of blood along the stone. The sound of his ragged breath filled the tunnel, each gasp weaker than the last. Behind them, the hangar collapsed, steel beams snapped, concrete groaned. The shadows pressed harder against the walls, their whispers chasing down the tunnel like a rising tide. Vessel, beacon ours. Seal's veins burned hotter, brighter, illuminating the tunnel in pale light. Every drop of sweat on his skin shimmered as if alive. The leader glanced back, eyes wide with terror. They will follow. As long as you glow, they will never stop. And in that moment, Seal understood. The escape was not about outrunning them. It was about how long he could resist before his own light betrayed him. The tunnel narrowed. Stone scraped Seal's shoulders as he forced himself forward. His breath came hot and ragged, bouncing back into his face off the dripping walls. The air grew thicker, heavy with the stink of damp earth and rust. Water dripped steadily from above, each drop echoing like a clock tick in the silence. Every sound behind him was wrong. The whispers crawled through the stone, seeping into his ears. Vessel beacon, you cannot run from what you are. Seal pressed forward faster, hands slipping on slick stone. His glowing veins lit the narrow path, throwing warped shadows across the jagged walls. Each flicker of light seemed to stretch the tunnel farther, bending it into shapes that felt alive. The leader stumbled behind him, dragging his broken leg, his breath rattling. Every few steps he coughed, wet and sharp, spattering the floor with blood. Still his voice cut through, low and urgent. Do not answer them, Barry, no matter what they promise. Do not let their words inside. Ciel nodded, though he doubted the man could see. His own head throbbed with the pressure of the whispers. They did not sound distant anymore. They sounded like they were already inside his skull. The tunnel shook suddenly. A deafening crack split the stone. Dust rained down, stinging Seal's eyes, choking his lungs. Behind them, the darkness surged closer. A lime slithered into the tunnel, slick jointless. It scraped along the stone, filling the space with a wet, grinding sound. The smell of brine and decay rushed forward with it. Seal's stomach twisted. He crawled faster, ignoring the jagged rocks cutting into his palms and knees. The glow in his veins pulsed brighter with every beat of his heart, betraying them. The leader's voice broke into a shout.
Cell, dim it! Do whatever you can!
They are hunting the light. Shield gritted his teeth, clawing forward. But the harder he fought to control it, the brighter the glow became. His body no longer obeyed. It wanted to answer. And from the blackness behind, the voice swelled, louder, deeper, undeniable. You cannot run, Barry Seal. You can only return to us. Seal's pulse hammered in his ears. The glow inside him surged like fire beneath his skin. It wasn't light anymore. It was heat pressure. Something alive clawing to be free. The leader grabbed his arm, his grip trembling but fierce. Fight it. Do not let them claim you. Focus on my voice. But the whispers drowned him out. They weren't whispers now. They were a chorus. Thousands of voices overlapping, echoing through the stone, vibrating in Seal's bones. The tunnel shuddered again. Cracks split open along the walls, leaking a thin, black liquid. It dripped in steady streams, hissing when it touched the ground, filling the air with the stench of rot. Seal gagged, his throat burning. The leader coughed violently, blood streaking his lips. Still, he dragged himself forward, refusing to stop. Then, a sound tore through the dark. Not a whisper, not a limb scraping stone. Scream, high-pitched, metallic, endless. The tunnel walls shook so hard Seal thought they might collapse. The black liquid pulsed in time with the scream, surging faster, filling the cracks like veins. Seal's glow responded. It flared so bright it hurt to look at his own hands. The light burst outward, pressing back the dark, but only for a moment. Then the screaming stopped. The silence that followed was worse. Seal felt it. Something had noticed him. Something bigger than the tunnel, bigger than the dark, and its attention locked onto him. Seal's chest tightened. Each breath scraped his lungs like shards of glass. The glow inside him flared uncontrollably, spilling from his eyes, his mouth, his fingertips. The leader staggered back, shielding his face. "Stop, control it," he shouted, his voice breaking against the roar of silence. But Seal could not stop. The presence pressed closer. It was not walking, not moving in any way he understood. It was simply there, a weight in the air, a crushing awareness, like the atmosphere itself bending, folding, staring back. Seal's skin prickled. The stone walls warped before his eyes, twisting into shapes that were not stone anymore. Faces. Hundreds of faces, mouths frozen mid-scream, eyes wide with terror, etched into the rock like fossils of the damned. The leader gripped Seal's shoulders, forcing him to meet his gaze. "They are watching you, but they are not what you must fear." His voice trembled, and for the first time, Seal saw it. The leader's own glow, faint, sickly, leaking through cracks in his skin. Seal's heart stopped for a beat. The realization clawed its way into his mind. The leader had been touched by it too, and the presence, it wanted both of them. The tunnel groaned. The air thickened, heavy as water pressing against Seal's chest. Every breath was a struggle, shallow and sharp. The leader's eyes burned faintly, sickly green leaking through his veins like poison. Seal wanted to pull away, but the man's grip locked tighter, desperate. "Do not look too long," the leader rasped. "It feeds on recognition." But Seal's gaze was already drawn to the wall. The faces carved in stone began to move. Their mouths stretched wider, teeth grinding like brittle glass. Their eyes rolled, tracking him in unison. A chorus of low moans spilled into the tunnel, vibrating in his skull. Seal clamped his hands to his ears, but the sound was inside him now. The glow inside his body pulsed harder, responding like a heartbeat since to the moaning. Faster, stronger, unstoppable. The leader collapsed to his knees, blood dripping from his nose, whispering a prayer that cracked with fear. Seal stumbled back, pressing against the trembling wall. Stone felt soft beneath his palms, almost flesh-like, slick with the black ooze. Then, from the far end of the tunnel, something shifted. Not shadow, something vast, sliding closer, unseen but undeniable. The faces on the walls screamed in terror, not at Seal, at what was coming. The air grew colder. Seal's breath puffed white in the dark, hanging thick, refusing to fade. Each exhale sounded too loud, as if the tunnel itself was listening. From the shadows, a shape shifted, not fully visible, only fragments. A ripple of movement, smooth and unnatural. A glint of something wet, reflecting his glow like liquid glass. A sound, low, dragging as though stone itself was being pulled across stone. Seal's heart pounded, hammering against his ribs. The glow in his body surged violently, burning his veins. It felt as if his blood was turning into light, too hot to contain. The leader forced himself upright, his body trembling. "Do not let it mark you," he hissed. "If it marks you, you are bound forever." But Seal could not look away. The shifting mass leaned forward. Two impressions pressed through the darkness. Not eyes, but vast hollows, glowing faintly like dying embers. A smell followed. Rot, burned metal, and something older, like earth from a grave disturbed after centuries. Seal staggered back, his heel slipping in the black ooze. The faces in the walls shrieked again, their voices rising in agony. The tunnel shook, dust raining from above. The presence was not just near, it was entering. Seal froze, every muscle locked as the mass edged closer. The air itself seemed to bend thick and heavy, pressing him down. His glow flickered violently, pulsing against the dark like a dying beacon. The hollows in the shadow deepened, fixing on him with unbearable weight. The leader cried out, voice breaking.
Do not accept its gaze!
Seal's vision blurred. The walls melted around him, faces twisting into elongated masks, mouths stretched wider than human jaws should allow. Their screams tore through the tunnel, overlapping, deafening. He clutched his skull, certain it would split open from the sound. The black ooze surged faster, crawling up the walls like veins of tar, dripping onto his arms and burning cold as ice. Something massive scraped the ceiling. A tremor shook loose chunks of stone, crashing at his feet. The shadow shifted again, closer now, its edges unraveling like smoke, its shape impossible to hold in thought. Seal felt his body trembling, but not from fear alone. The light inside him wanted out. It strained against his skin, begging to be unleashed. The leader's voice came again, weak but urgent. "If you release it now, you may never come back." And in that moment, the vast hollows flared. Seal felt a brand sear into his chest, invisible but undeniable. It had touched him. Seal screamed. The sound tore from his throat, raw and jagged, echoing against the tunnel walls. His chest burned where the brand had touched. No mark was visible, but the skin seethed with heat, as though fire was etched beneath the surface. The glow inside him no longer felt like his own. It pulsed in rhythm with the hollows. Every beat of his heart answered them. The leader staggered forward, blood smearing his lips, his eyes wide with terror. He gripped Seal's wrist, fingers digging in.
Listen to me. You must resist.
If it binds fully, you will not be you anymore. Seal tried to speak, but his mouth only poured light. A searing beam spilled between his teeth, flooding the tunnel in a blinding flash. The faces on the walls shrieked louder, writhing as if burned. The black ooze recoiled, hissing, pulling back into the cracks like it feared the light. But the shadow, the vast, sliding presence, did not retreat. It leaned closer, its hollows glowing brighter. Seal felt his bones vibrate, his vision splitting into fragments. The leader dropped to his knees, clutching his chest, whispering words Seal could not understand. The stone around them cracked deeper, as if the tunnel itself would not hold under the pressure of what was happening. Seal's skin split at his forearms, thin lines of light spilling through like fractures in glass. He gasped, realizing with horror he was changing. Seal's arms blazed. Light bled from the cracks in his skin, spilling in jagged streaks across the tunnel floor. The glow was no longer warm. It was searing, unforgiving. He staggered, clutching at the walls for balance, but the stone felt alive, pulsing beneath his fingers. The faces carved there twisted away from his touch, shrieking as though scorched. The leader dragged himself forward, coughing blood. He raised a trembling hand, tracing a circle in the air with his finger. The gesture glowed faintly, like embers pressed into the dark. "Stay with me, Seal. Do not let them take you." His words trembled with desperation, breaking on every breath. Seal's body convulsed. His spine arched, light erupting from his back in sharp bursts that cracked like lightning. The smell of burning flesh filled the air, his own skin smouldering as the glow carved deeper into him. The vast shadow pressed closer, the hollows widening. The weight of its gaze crushed him, bending his knees, forcing him down. Every beat of his heart synced to the rhythm of that presence. The leader slammed his palm to the floor. Symbols flared beneath him, carved by fire across the stone, spiraling outward in jagged patterns. The air trembled with the vibration of his chant, words older than language itself. Seal's vision blurred. Two worlds overlapped. The tunnel of stone and another realm of endless black, where colossal forms moved in silence. For a moment, he saw it clearly, the true shape, and it was nothing human. Seal's eyes widened. The vision consumed him. The endless black spread out in all directions. No sky, no ground. Only a vast abyss, alive with movement. Shapes drifted through the void. Colossal, slow, impossible to measure. They did not walk. They did not crawl. They simply were. Seal's glow pulsed in answer, a flicker against their enormity. One of the shapes turned. The hollows he had seen in the tunnel now loomed before him, infinite, carved into a face that was not a face at all. The sound of its presence thundered through his skull. A vibration deeper than thought, a command without words. Submit. His knees buckled. He fell into the abyss, weightless, light spilling from his chest in violent bursts. The warmth of himself, the sense of being Barry Seal, frayed at the edges. He felt his name unravel. The leader's chant broke through faintly, like a whisper cutting across storm winds. Seal clung to it, desperate. But the entity pressed harder. The abyss surged. Tendrils of shadow wrapped around him, cold and endless, pulling him deeper. The glow inside him flickered violently, fighting to resist. But every struggle only drew the shadow closer. His body split again with cracks of light. His scream echoed both in the tunnel and in the void. And the thing leaned closer. The leader's voice broke through the void. Strained, cracked, but sharp enough to cut the pull of the abyss. Seal's body convulsed, the light inside him flaring wildly. The tendrils of shadow hissed, recoiling as if burned. The leader pressed both palms flat to the ground. The symbols beneath him blazed, spirals of fire racing outwards, searing into the stone. The tunnel shook, dust and fragments falling from the ceiling. Seal gasped, his lungs flooding with cold air. For a moment he felt himself again. The sound of his own name returned, faint but present, anchoring him. But the entity was not retreating. It pressed harder, the hollows of its gaze widening, swallowing the light that tried to resist. The abyss quaked as it pushed against the leader's circle, testing the barrier. The leader screamed, veins bulging, blood running from his ears. The spiral on the ground flickered, straining to hold. Seal's glow tore at his skin, cracks spreading further, splitting his shoulders, his chest. Light poured out like fire from broken stone. The pain was unbearable, yet the pull of surrender whispered relief. One choice, let the light consume him, or let the shadow claim it, and both roads led into darkness. Seal's body shook violently. Every fracture of light spread wider, glowing veins crawling across his skin. The heat was unbearable, molten fire rushing beneath his flesh. The leader's circle blazed, but the symbols sputtered like dying embers. His voice cracked mid-chant, blood spraying from his mouth. He was breaking under the strain. The shadow pressed closer. The hollows glared into Seal's core, demanding surrender. Every whisper in the void promised release from pain. Submit. Become. End. Seal's vision blurred, the tunnel vanished. All he saw was the abyss, stretching forever, alive with titanic forms shifting in silence. One tendril coiled tighter around his chest. Cold seeped into him, freezing his glow, slowing his heart. His scream choked into silence, but deep inside, the light bucked wildly, fighting. It burned hotter, forcing cracks to spread across his chest like shattered glass. Seal gasped, a final spark of will igniting. The leader shouted, his voice raw and desperate.
No, Seal.
If you let go, do it on your terms. Seal clenched his fists. The glow surged upward, flooding his veins. Every fracture in his body became a conduit. He felt himself tearing apart piece by piece, and then the light erupted. The light burst outward. It ripped through the tunnel like a storm of fire and glass. Stone walls split apart, faces carved into them shattering with piercing screams. The tendrils recoiled, writhing as they dissolved into smoke. The vast hollows blinked once, shrinking, dragged back into the abyss. The entire void trembled as if struck by something it did not expect. Seal fell to his knees. Light still leaked from his chest, burning in uneven pulses. His breath came ragged, each inhale scraping raw against his throat. The leader collapsed beside him, coughing blood onto the glowing spiral. The symbols flickered, then dimmed, spent. But the circle had held. Barely. The air stank of scorched stone and ash. The tunnel floor hissed where fragments of black ooze sizzled, evaporating into acrid smoke. Silence returned, but it was not peace. Seal looked down at his hands. The cracks remained. Thin veins of light crawled across his skin, glowing faintly even as he tried to will them dark. He was not whole anymore. The leader wiped blood from his mouth, his eyes heavy with dread. You pushed it back, he rasped. But it will come again. The next time, it will not leave without you. Seal's glow flickered in answer, as though the presence still lingered, just beyond sight. Waiting. Seal staggered against the wall. His palms pressed flat to the stone, but he barely felt it. His skin was too hot, pulsing with faint lines of light that refused to fade. Every beat of his heart echoed in his ears. Not just a rhythm, a voice deep and endless, humming beneath the sound. The leader leaned close, his face pale, his breath shallow. You hear it now, do you not? Seal froze. The hum grew louder, filling the back of his skull, vibrating through his teeth. It was not words, but meaning still bled through. Found chosen marked? He gritted his teeth, trying to shut it out, but the glow inside him surged an answer. His veins lit brighter, crawling up his neck and across his jaw. The leader gripped his wrist, his fingers trembling. This is only the beginning. The light inside you is no gift. It is their chain. Every flicker is a thread pulling you closer. Seal jerked his hand back, gasping. He stared at his reflection in a shard of fallen stone. His eyes glowed faintly, burning like embers in the dark. For a moment, he saw something move in the reflection. Not himself. A silhouette with hollows for eyes, standing just behind his shoulder. Seal spun, but the tunnel was empty. Only silence, only stone, yet the smell of rot still lingered. Seal pressed his palms to his temples. The humming would not stop. It rattled his skull, vibrating through his jaw, sinking into his bones. Every breath came shallow, unsteady. The glow beneath his skin flared in time with the hum, spreading down his arms and across his chest. It felt alive, not his, not human. The leader crawled closer, his voice a rasp. You must fight the rhythm. If you give yourself to it, you will vanish, and only they will remain. Seal's vision blurred again. The tunnel swam before his eyes, melting into blackness. The walls flickered between stone and flesh, veins bulging, faces twitching within the cracks. He staggered forward, clutching his stomach. Something moved inside him, not light, not blood, something that shifted when he breathed. The leader slammed his fist against the floor, forcing his words through clenched teeth. You are losing the boundary. You must hold it. Hold yourself. Seal gasped, falling to his knees. Light spilled from the corners of his eyes like tears. He clawed at the ground, his fingernails leaving trails of glowing residue across the stone. The hum inside his skull grew louder, layered now. It was not one voice. It was many, all whispering the same word. Ours. Seal's fingers trembled against the stone. The glowing trails he left behind pulsed like veins alive, spreading outward in crooked lines. He tried to pull his hands back, but the floor clung to him. The stone felt warm, wet, as if it were drinking him in. The leader struck the ground again, desperate.
Do not let it claim you! Seal, listen to me!
But the voices inside were louder. They hissed and layered, whispering promises he couldn't ignore. Freedom, strength, belonging. His jaw locked tight, his breath came ragged. The light inside him flared, shooting up his throat until his teeth glowed faintly when he tried to scream. He bent forward, choking, feeling the thing inside him coil. Something cold brushed the inside of his ribs, curling around his heart. The hum shifted pitch. Now it sounded like laughter. Seal's vision split into fragments, shards of tunnel, shards of faces, shards of himself staring back from broken pieces. Each reflection mouthed the same word. Ours, and for the first time he felt his own voice join theirs. Seal's throat burned. The light pushed upward, pressing against his teeth, his tongue begging to be released. The leader's chant grew faster. Desperate, he slammed his staff against the stone, sparks leaping like dying stars. But Seal wasn't listening anymore. The hum inside him drowned out every other sound. It filled his ears. It filled his blood. The tunnel seemed to shrink, pressing in closer. Walls dripped with condensation. The smell of rust and wet earth thick in the air. His skin crawled as if insects were crawling beneath it. The figures surrounding him began to blur. Faces melted into masks of shadow. Their eyes, too many eyes, open where no eyes should be. Seal gasped. The light inside finally broke free. A scream tore from his mouth, but it wasn't his voice anymore. It was layered, ancient, a chorus that shook the air and cracked the stone beneath him. The floor pulsed like a heartbeat. Something was waking. The air split with the sound of cracking stone. Dust rained from the ceiling, coating Seal's lips with grit. The chanting stopped. Every figure froze, for a heartbeat silence. Then, a low rumble deep beneath the earth. It vibrated through his chest, shaking his bones. The stone slab beneath his knees shifted, ever so slightly. Seal's breath caught. The spiral carved into the altar began to glow, each line filling with liquid fire. It flowed like veins, pulsing brighter, hotter, alive. The shadows on the walls writhed. They stretched, split, reshaped themselves into limbs that shouldn't exist. Something moved in the black. Something vast. Something older than the language carved into the stones. Seal tried to scream again, but his throat was raw. Only a whisper escaped, and then a single eye opened beneath the altar. It was not human, not even close. The eye was enormous, wet and glistening like molten glass. A sickly green iris spun in endless circles, never stopping, never blinking. Seal felt it pierce straight through him, as if it had been waiting for him. The ground buckled. Cracks opened in jagged lines, glowing with the same fiery veins. Heat surged upward, carrying the stench of sulphur and blood. The hooded figures dropped to their knees. Their hands trembled, their chants returning. Faster now, frantic. They were not in control, they were begging. The altar shuddered again. Stone dust rained into Seal's hair. He pressed his palms flat, but the slab was warm, too warm. Alive, the spiral beneath him began to spin. Slow at first, then faster, dragging him toward its center. And as the eye widened, a voice thundered in his skull. Not spoken, not heard, but felt like a blade carving through thought. The voice split him open from the inside. Every bone vibrated, every nerve screamed. It was not language, it was older than words, but his mind bent twisted and forced meaning into it. Unbound, Seal gasped, clutching his head. The syllable echoed in his skull, stretching into infinity. The spiral beneath him pulsed, pulling harder. His body felt weightless, like it was being peeled away in strips. The hooded figures wailed. One collapsed, face pressed to the dirt. Another tore at his own skin, as if trying to erase himself. The eye blinked. Once the world dimmed. Seal tried to shut his eyes, but the darkness followed him there too. The bindings crack. The gate opens. The words were not meant for him, and yet he understood. And that was the worst part. Seal's breath came in ragged bursts. The air stank of sulphur and wet iron. It burned his throat. The spiral beneath him widened, stretching like liquid. Its edges shimmered, glowing faintly green, as if alive. It was not a symbol anymore. It was a door. The hooded figures scrambled backward, robes dragging through the dirt. One screamed so loud it tore the silence apart. Another dropped to his knees, muttering prayers, words slipping into static. Seal tried to crawl away, but the ground clung to his palms. The soil pulsed, veins of light threading through it, binding him there. He felt it pulling not at his body, but at something deeper. The voice rose again, vibrating in his teeth. Witness. A shape began forming within the spiral, not solid, not smoke. Something in between, writhing as if it had been waiting. Seal's heart pounded so hard he thought it might tear from his chest. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but there was nowhere left to run. The shape rose higher, swelling like smoke caught in reverse. It coiled, folded, and unfolded again. Every movement bent the air, as if reality itself resisted its presence. Seal's skin prickled. Cold beads of sweat slid down his temples. His vision blurred, edges trembling with static. The figure did not have a face. Not yet, it shifted, trying on forms like masks. For a moment it was a man, then a bird, then something with too many limbs. The hooded figures cried out. One clawed at the earth until nails snapped. Another ran, but his body folded mid-stride, vanishing into the spiral with a wet hiss. Seal's breath hitched. The voice pressed against his skull again. We have been waiting. The words carried weight. Heavy. Inevitable, like chains tightening around his soul. And in that moment, Seal understood. This was not a meeting. It was a summoning. The cultists huddled together, trembling. Their chants had collapsed into broken whimpers. One rocked back and forth, whispering the same word again and again. Unbound, unbound. The figure loomed above them, its body warping the air. It leaned closer, folds of darkness brushing against the ground like smoke. Where it touched, the earth blackened and cracked. Seal could hear his own pulse hammering in his ears. The weight of the presence crushed him into the soil. Every breath felt stolen. Every movement forbidden. The voice tore through the clearing again. One must bear it. The cultist shrieked. Several fell prostrate, arms outstretched, as if offering themselves. But the figure ignored them. Its shifting, faceless form tilted towards Seal. He felt it pierce him without eyes. A gaze deeper than flesh, deeper than thought. You. The word shattered something inside him. He knew, with a terror that hollowed his chest, that the entity had chosen. Seal's stomach twisted. The ground beneath him pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Every vein of light in the soil crawled toward him, wrapping around his hands and arms. The cultists wailed louder. Some tore at their robes. Others pressed their faces into the dirt, refusing to look. The entity's shadow stretched across him. Its weight sank into his chest, pressing the air out of his lungs. He tried to scream, but his throat locked tight. You will carry the fracture. The words vibrated through his bones. His vision fractured into shards of green and black. Each blink showed a different world. A jungle, a desert, a battlefield littered with smoking metal. He felt something cold seep into him. It slid under his skin like ice water veins. His teeth rattled. His eyes burned. The spiral flared once more, swallowing the clearing in light. And Seal understood. His fate was no longer his own. Seal's body convulsed. His hands clawed at the earth, tearing up roots and stones. But the soil clung to him, refusing release. The cold inside him spread. It threaded through muscle, bone and blood. Every nerve lit up with white fire. The cultists staggered back, shielding their faces. One shrieked, "It begins." Another fled into the trees, vanishing into the dark. Seal's skin shimmered faintly, as if lit from beneath. Thin cracks opened across his arms, glowing green like molten glass. His veins no longer carried blood. They carried light. He tried to speak. Only a rasp came out, broken and raw. The words did not sound like his own. "I see." The entity bent lower. Its faceless head hovered inches from his. Seal felt its presence flood into his skull, as if his mind was being rewritten line by line. The cultists bowed, whispering in frantic unison. Their voices merged into a single trembling chant. The air itself vibrated with it. And Seal realized with mounting horror. The spiral was no longer pulling something out. It was pulling something through. The light inside Seal pulsed, each surge stronger than the last. His chest heaved as if something clawed beneath his ribs, desperate to break free. The spiral widened. Its edges cracked open like splitting stone. From within, a pressure spilled out, thick, suffocating, alive. The cultists trembled on their knees. Some wept openly, faces streaked with dirt and tears. Others rocked in ecstasy, arms lifted toward the fracture in the earth. Seal's vision blurred. Shapes crawled at the edge of sight, shifting in and out of focus. A clawed eye. A mouth that never closed. The voice struck again, deeper now, layered with echoes. Through the bearer, the passage holds. Seal's jaw locked. His teeth ground together until blood filled his mouth. He tried to cry out, but the sound was swallowed before it left his lips. The spiral flared once more, and this time, something began to rise through it. The ground shook, rattling trees shaking the night air. The smell of sulphur thickened, coating Seal's tongue in bitterness. The cultists screamed in awe, but Seal only felt one thing, pure, suffocating terror. The earth split wider, coughing up dust and fumes. The trees groaned as if the forest itself feared what was coming. Birds burst from the branches, shrieking into the night sky. Seal's body jerked, tethered to the spiral by unseen chains. His veins glowed brighter, each pulse sensing with the rumble beneath the ground. It was not his heart beating anymore. It was something else. The spiral seethed. From its centre, a shape pressed against the surface, warping it like stretched glass. The outline shifted. Too large, too uneven, too wrong to belong here. Seal gagged as the stench thickened. It smelled like rotting meat drowned in gasoline. Each breath seared his throat. The cultists were on their bellies now, arms spread wide. Their voices joined in a fevered chant, rising and falling like a single monstrous breath. The sound clawed at Seal's ears until they rang. Then, with a tearing shriek, the spiral split open. A limb forced itself through, thick, glistening, covered in jagged ridges that scraped against the soil. The ground hissed where it touched, burning as if acid had spilled across it. Seal's eyes widened. He could not move. He could not scream. He could only watch as more of it began to follow. The limb writhed, dragging itself further from the spiral. Each movement scraped like metal across stone. Seal felt the vibration in his teeth, sharp and splitting. Another limb forced its way through, longer, bent at angles that defied bone. The ground cracked beneath its weight, glowing veins of green spreading outward. Seal's body trembled, every nerve screaming to flee. But the spiral held him tighter. He was the anchor. The doorway could not exist without him. The smell thickened, choking the clearing. It clung to his tongue, gracy and bitter, until bile rose in his throat. The cultists wailed louder, pressing their faces to the soil. Their voices overlapped in desperate harmony. Some laughed through tears. Others screamed as if their minds were tearing apart. The figure that had hovered above Seal leaned back into the spiral. It seemed to merge with the limbs, feeding them strength. Seal's chest heaved. The cracks in his skin widened, light spilling out in jagged bursts. Every pulse inside him matched the creature's struggle to emerge. And then, something vast pressed against the opening. An eye not human, not animal, vast, unblinking, searching. Seal felt it see him, and in that gaze, he understood. It was not finished coming through. It was only beginning. The eye widened. It pulsed, a sickly green beacon in the darkness. Seal could feel it in his chest, in his bones, in the light that still bled from his skin. The limbs followed, sprawling outward in impossible angles. They scraped, clattered, and thudded as they pressed into the clearing. The earth groaned, splitting further with each pulse. The leader screamed, voice hoarse and raw. He hammered the spiral with his fists, trying to hold it together. But it was futile, the being pressed against reality itself. Seal's glow flared wildly. It streaked up his arms, across his neck, until his eyes mirrored the green of the entity. He realized with terror that he was no longer fully himself. Part of him had merged with the power he had resisted. The air crackled. The cultists screamed, flung themselves forward, then were thrown back by invisible force. The forest shivered, branches snapped, leaves caught fire. The spiral throbbed. It shivered under the pressure, and then the entity surged forward, filling the clearing, stretching impossibly tall, its faceless mass bending the night, swallowing shadows, devouring light. Seal fell to his knees, gasping. He could feel the world bending around him. The eye, the limbs, the darkness, they were all alive, and they had chosen him. The entity pressed closer. Its mass twisted the air, bending reality with every undulation. Seal could feel the heat and cold of it at once. It was suffocating, crushing, yet strangely magnetic. The eye fixed on him. It bored into his chest, searing into his very soul. He could feel every thought, every memory. Every fear laid bare. The leader crawled forward, blood streaked across his face.
You must hold it at bay,
he rasped. But his voice was weak, swallowed by the pulsing roar of the being. Seal's body shivered violently. The cracks in his skin pulsed with green fire. Every heartbeat seemed to drag the entity closer. Every breath tethered him to it. The being's form writhed. Limbs stretched impossibly long, curling into shapes that should not exist. It bent the clearing around it, folding shadows into itself. And then the voice, thick, deep, omnipresent. Do you accept it? Or shall it take without consent? Seal's chest heaved. His hands clenched into fists. The glowing veins across his arms quivered, as if waiting for his answer. The forest held its breath. The air stank of sulphur and iron, and all that remained in the clearing was the pulsing eye watching, judging, waiting. Seal's hands shook, light pulse beneath his skin, surging in chaotic bursts. The eye fixed him, unblinking, unrelenting. The voice demanded, choose. Accept or be consumed. His mind raced. Every instinct screamed to flee. Every memory of who he had been clawed at him. But the glow inside him responded differently. It was alive. It was pleading. It was warning. Seal's chest heaved. He felt the pull in his spine, in his bones, dragging him toward the spiral's center. A tremor ran through the clearing, rattling loose branches, scattering ash. And then he spoke. Not words, not a scream, but a sound that was both him and not him. A light erupted, so bright it scorched the shadows, searing the earth. The spiral flared with molten green fire. The entity recoiled, hissing, reshaping in midair. The cultists were thrown backward, coughing, shielding their eyes. The forest shivered. Something deep underground groaned in pain. Seal fell to his knees, gasping. The glow retreated into his veins, leaving faint cracks that still shimmered. The eye narrowed, watching, waiting, and Seal understood. With chilling clarity, this was not over. Seal lay on the scorched ground, chest heaving. The spiral had dimmed, leaving only faint cracks glowing like embers. The forest was silent now, but it felt hollow, as if holding its breath. The cultists stirred. Some crawled to their feet, eyes wide with awe and terror. Others wept quietly, unable to speak. All of them had seen the impossible. Seal touched his arms. The green light had receded, but faint veins still shimmered beneath his skin. He was changed. Part of him remained tethered to the entity, a pulse of something older than the world. The eye was gone, the limbs withdrawn into the spiral, but Seal knew it had not left. It lingered just beyond perception, waiting, watching. And he was the link now, the keeper, the bearer. The leader approached cautiously, voice barely audible. It will return, and when it does, we will need you. Seal nodded, though he was not sure he fully understood. The forest around them seemed alive, humming faintly with anticipation. Every shadow flickered, every breeze carried a whisper. He rose slowly, the glow in his veins pulsing with a quiet rhythm. He had survived. He had faced the unimaginable. But some part of him knew the night was not finished. And in that silence, the spiral's faint green shimmer hinted at what was still waiting. Seal took a step forward. The darkness seemed to lean closer, and he whispered into it, almost to himself, "Not yet, not yet." The wind shifted. A single leaf drifted down, landing across the spiral's cracked surface, and the forest waited.